Well, hey guys, so today's show, we're going to be talking about the most important thing that you can do in your relationships. This is a game changer. When you hear what I'm unpacking today and the simplicity behind it, you're going to be like, boom, mind blown. And I'm not here by myself. I've got the peanuts, who are just so stinking cute. Please, can I get an amen? And we're going to be also continuing our journey through the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Lisa of EnergieGal Holistic Wellness. We are a community that is gathering and we are growing around the idea of integration of body, soul, spirit. Around the idea that we have trauma that exists within our bodies, and as we re-narrate our stories, we reconfigure and recalibrate our realities and heal our bodies. We are also becoming curious, compassionate, and courageous around our relationships with ourselves, with each other, and with God. So glad to have you here on our journey through 2023 and becoming a better version of ourselves. Okay, so today's show, all about assumptions. You know what they say about assuming makes an ass out of you and me. I can testify that that is true. Just a quick story on my end. I remember one time years ago when my husband, for 3 or 4 Sundays in a row, went to go see his parents, who lived just a couple miles down the road, by himself without telling me. And usually we were in the habit of going together every Sunday, popping in for a half hour. And so this was a little unusual. So later on in that Sunday, I'd say, hey, you didn't get a chance to see your folks. When are we going? And he'd say, oh, I crossed that off the list earlier. All right. Well, as this happened for about a month in a row, I started assuming that there was an issue between me and my in-laws. I started assuming, yeah, I know what it is. I know they don't like me. That's what the issue is. He's not asking me to come along because they don't like me. So I've got this scenario in my head. So now when I see my in-laws in person or when we go to gather at their place for an event, I feel myself holding myself really tight and holding back and holding in. And I remember a couple of comments were made and my husband would say, like, why are you doing that? And I'd say, well, I know. He's like, you know what? And I said, well, I know your parents don't like me. He's like, when did this happen? And I said, well, because of those, 3 or 4 times that you went without me to visit them, I guess I just assumed. And he said, hon, it wasn't that. He said, it was the fact that we go see my parents every single weekend and you get so little time to yourself that I thought, I'm going to give her a little bit of a break, just a little bit of downtime to have nobody in the house but herself. And maybe she could take a bath or just enjoy the quiet. And I'll go visit my folks and send her hellos. Well, that assumption kind of made an ass out of me, didn't it? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We'll start with the 4 agreements. He's got the 3rd agreement, which is don't make assumptions. I'll read a little bit from what he says. We make assumptions about what others are doing or thinking. We take it personally. And then we blame them or react by sending emotional poison with our word. And that is why whenever we make assumptions, we're asking for problems. We make an assumption, we misunderstand, we take it personally, and we end up creating a whole big drama for nothing. That I want to share with the peanuts. I end up getting a page a day from my husband because these guys are adorable. So let's see what happens with Snoopy and Woodstock, January 1st. Charlie Brown says this. Hey, Snoopy, here it looks like you got a bill from Woodstock. And Snoopy says, A bill for what? And this is what the bill says. Snoopy, you owe me $6 for the things you broke at my New Year's Eve party. Please pay it once. This is what Snoopy does. He screams, "That stupid bird! His whole nest isn't worth $6. I won't pay." Besides, he served very cheap root beer. January 2nd. What's this, another bill from Woodstock? The note says, "This is your second notice. You owe me $6 for what you broke at my New Year's Eve party. And don't try to get out of it paying, you banana nose." And Snoopy goes, "Banana nose!" January 3rd. Just shows you the picture. He goes, gives Woodstock back that bill. Two buddies really struggling and not being kind to each other. January 4th. Charlie Brown says, friendships are too important to spoil by bickering. And Snoopy says, well, this is true. And Charlie Brown says, I think that maybe you and Woodstock should try to talk things out. And then Snoopy goes, "Ha! I can hear him now." Charlie Brown says, "Yeah, I can see what you're saying." January 6th, we need Lucy in on the whole thing, right? Charlie Brown says, what do you think, what do you do with two friends who are having a misunderstanding? And Lucy balls her fist. She says, "You straighten them out. You show them where they've gone wrong. You tell them to shape up." And Charlie Brown says, "Is that good psychology?" And I think it's Linus here who says, in strict medical terms, it's called butting in. So, as we continue our journey, Charlie Brown says, "Hey, Snoopy, I have a suggestion." And Snoopy goes, "Yeah, doesn't everyone?" He says, "Why don't you try to find out what it was that you broke at Woodstock's party? Maybe that would be the first step toward your reconciliation." Snoopy goes, "I always trip up on that first step." So we're going to continue our journey. I'll let you know how it ends. But first I want to go back to what Charlie Brown was saying. Try to have a conversation. Ask clarifying questions. What did you mean by? I saw that you did this and I was wondering, what did that mean? I don't want to assume I know what it means. You said this, but I want to make sure that I heard you correctly. We are afraid to ask for clarifying questions. We make assumptions, and then we defend our assumptions, and we try to make someone else wrong. It's always better to ask questions than to make an assumption, because assumptions set us up for suffering. I find it interesting that Snoopy here assumed he must have broken a pot or something. And he was like, why would I pay $6 for something from the whole nest? His whole house isn't worth $6. He assumed he had broken a piece of material. And he got angry. He started saying mean things towards Woodstock, his best buddy. Charlie Brown comes along and says, what if you asked a clarifying question? What if you said, what did I break? You wrote this, and I guess I just don't quite understand. Could you tell me a little bit more? Snoopy and Woodstock start having their conversation. Woodstock says this, me, 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 me. Translated, I invited you to my New Year's party because you are my friend. There was someone else at the party that I wanted you to meet. She's the cutest little bird I've ever known, and you monopolized her the whole evening. It broke my heart. That's why I sent you a bill for $6. Now with this information, Snoopy can proceed because he's gotten beyond making an assumption into clarifying questions, asked for details, and said, hold on, I want to make sure I've got this right before I proceed. Rather than just react, I want to act out of what it is I know that you're saying, rather than assuming I know what you're saying. And he thinks this: I spoiled Woodstock's party. He had invited the cute little bird that he's in love with, but he never got a chance to talk with her because I talked with her the whole evening. So he sent me a bill for $6 for his broken heart. Oh, Woodstock, my little friend of friends, don't you realize that your heart is worth much more than $6? They got a chance to really hear each other and not react out of their own wounds or their own pain or their assumptions. And that's what I would speak for us. Now we're going to continue this another couple of times because it's juicy and it's a long chapter, and I don't want to bite off too much. I want us to grab our water. And all I want to do today is we hold on to this water with our hands close to our heart, just becoming very aware that we want to bring this information, this truth of the power of asking clarifying questions from a concept down into a way of being, of breathing, of interfacing and being in relationship with other people. Heck, you can even ask clarifying questions of yourself. If you hear that voice in your head saying, oh my God, you should be ashamed of yourself, ask a clarifying question. About what? And should I be ashamed of myself? Start having a conversation and coming into a relationship with yourself in a space of truth. And definitely in relationships, ask clarifying questions. Never assume. And so what I'd say in this space is not even, I don't even want to get to a point where like, let's think about something. No. All I want you to do is breathe and speak. I am willing to start asking clarifying questions. I am willing to become curious about the thoughts that are in my head, as well as the conversations that I'm having with other people. I'm willing to become curious about what is being said so that I'm not always just assuming that I know. And let me become compassionate for myself and for the other, because we are treading on territory that's uncharted. So many of us have lived from a place of assumption this whole time that we don't know what it's like to be like this. Can you explain to me a little bit so that I understand you better? And then to become courageous, to be able to act from our highest self rather than react out of our pain. To be courageous to say, hold on, before we go any further, can we just put our hearts next to each other in a hug? And we'll hash out the details later. But first, let's heart to heart connect and let's breathe together for a few breaths, and then we can have a conversation. That's a very courageous thing to do. I am willing to become curious and ask clarifying questions rather than assume. To become compassionate for myself and the other as we tread into uncharted territory. And to become courageous to say, let's heart to heart connect breathe, and maybe we'll talk after. But first, connect. Thank you. Your presence here is so helpful to me on my evolving journey, on my journey of growing and remembering who I am as a sovereign, loved being, as light and love manifest, walking with skin around the earth. So my name is Lisa. I am an holistic wellness practitioner specializing in eating psychology, as well as anxiety, depression, raising special needs kids, motherhood and marriage in general, relationships. And I would love to be of assistance to you. I've got some links below if you want a one-on-one, either virtually or in the office. In the meantime, we would just sure love to have you be part of our tribe. So if you would subscribe as well as like, comment, and share. We are waking up. We are, we are being willing to see what's next. We are willing to move from a heart space rather than just up here, a logic space. Hey, I'm all about logic. I love it. But I also want to add that heart space and come down into the body and live, not just get by, but thrive, and not just survive. Not just eke by, but just powerfully experience all that life has for us. It was great to have you along. We will continue our journey through the third agreement next time we meet. Take care, everybody.